The afternoon sun of Valaris 9 glowed like soft blue fire across the valley, painting every surface with a strange, gentle light. The world was peaceful, almost too peaceful, and that made human engineer Mason Hale a little uneasy. He liked new planets. He lived for discovery, but Valaris 9 felt like it was watching him back. He checked the readings on his scanning pad. Atmosphere stable. Organic stable. Everything stable, he murmured to himself. Too stable. Mason was part of the Odyssey Task Force, a group of human explorers sent to study worlds with unusual biology. Valaris 9 was their latest mission. Rumors said the planet's plants could shift form, adapt, or even grow intelligence if given enough energy. Humans didn't know if that was true yet, but Mason already believed the stories. The way the trees moved in slow harmony with the wind felt almost deliberate. He took a few more steps into the clearing and knelt beside a cluster of glowing vines. They pulsed like veins, bright enough to cast small circles of light on the ground. Mason lifted his recorder and spoke clearly, knowing scientists back home would listen later. The vines show rhythmic pulses, unsure if energy-based or communication-based. Testing contact. He reached out with a small sensor rod. Before the rod even touched the vine, the plant coiled toward it like a curious animal. Mason flinched but didn't pull back. The vine gently wrapped the rod, almost testing its weight. "Okay," Mason whispered. "You're friendly. That's good." Footsteps sounded behind him. Light, fast, almost like someone floating. Mason stood up and turned around. A figure stared at him from several feet away. She looked young, but not human. Her skin shimmered silver blue like water mixed with moonlight. Her hair floated behind her as if underwater, and her eyes, bright violet, blinked at him without fear. A Valerian. He froze. The humans knew intelligent life lived here, but they had expected to encounter them through the diplomatic team, not alone in a glowing forest. The alien girl tilted her head. She didn't seem scared. In fact, she seemed fascinated. "You are human," she said with a melodic voice. Her words were accented but clear. Mason raised a hand slowly. "Yes. Hello." She stepped closer, her curiosity obvious with every movement. She pointed at the sensor rod the vine still held. "Your object grows. Why?" Mason blinked in confusion, then burst into a short laugh. No. It's not growing. The vine grabbed it." The girl looked at the vine, then the rod, then Mason again. Her expression said she did not believe him. She approached the vine fearlessly and tapped it. The plant retreated, releasing the rod. But as it did, the sensor rod unfolded a secondary scanning plate, automatic response to losing contact. The plate extended with a soft mechanical clink. The girl gasped loudly. She jumped back. "Is it growing? What else can it do?" Mason raised both hands, trying not to laugh again. "It's not growing. It's just unfolding. It's a tool." The girl was not convinced. She looked ready to either run away or call a whole army of Valerians on him. "It changes shape," she insisted. "Things that change shape are alive, and things that change shape quickly are dangerous." "I promise you," Mason said carefully, "this tool is not alive. Humans make machines that can shift form. It's normal for us." She stared at the device as if it was a wild animal. "Normal? Machines that move? Machines that grow? Your species is strange." Mason shrugged. "You're not wrong." For a moment, silence settled between them. The girl studied him from head to toe, her violet eyes bright with interest. Then she stepped closer again, slowly, like approaching a skittish creature. "What is your name, human?" she asked. "Mason. Mason Hale." "I am Arixa," she said proudly, touching her chest with a graceful gesture. "Daughter of the Keeper of the Waters. We watch over this valley." Mason nodded politely. Nice to meet you, Aurixa. Aurixa's gaze returned to the rod in his hand. May I? She paused, searching for the right words. May I examine your growing tool? Mason snorted. You know, when you say it like that, it sounds like something it's not. She frowned. I don't understand. Never mind, he said quickly. Sure. Here. He handed her the rod. Aurixa held it between her slender fingers like it might explode. The rod responded to her touch, adjusting the grip surface to match her hand. Aurixa nearly dropped it. It changed again. It adapts to the user, Mason explained. Humans like our tools flexible. Flexible? She tried the word on her tongue, as if weighing its meaning. Valerian tools do not change. They are grown with one purpose, and they stay that way. That explains a lot, Mason muttered. Aurixa looked up at him sharply again, eyes full of open curiosity. Your world must be chaotic. How do you trust things that shift and reshape? How do you know what they will do next? Mason smiled a little. We don't always know. But that's part of why humans build things like this, to solve problems fast. We don't wait for nature to decide for us. We make changes ourselves. Aurixa's expression softened with wonder. Humans shape the world instead of letting the world shape them. That's one way to put it, Mason said. Before Aurixa could ask more questions, a rustling sound echoed across the clearing. Mason turned, hand instinctively going to the multi-purpose belt at his waist. A group of Valerians stepped out from the trees, moving with the fluid grace of dancers. Their clothing shimmered with the same water-like glow as Aurixa's skin. They did not look pleased. The tallest one stepped forward. His eyes focused on the rod in Aurixa's hand. Aurixa, he said firmly, step away from that. Aurixa frowned. Father, it is safe. It is changing, the elder argued. That kind of device is unnatural. It does not belong here. Mason raised his hands. Sir, it's a tool, just a The elder cut him off sharply. Your machines disturb the balance of this valley. Nothing should shift form so quickly. Living things require cycles to change. This thing disrespects the rhythm of our world. Aurixa stepped protectively between Mason and the elder. Father, he means no harm. His people create tools that adapt. It is how humans survive. Another Valerian whispered urgently. He carries unstable growth tech. We must report this. Growth tech? Mason repeated in disbelief. It's not growth tech. It's just a tool. But the Valerians were already murmuring warnings and suspicions. Aurixa firmly held up the rod. He allowed me to hold it. It responds to intention. It is helpful, not harmful. The elder's expression softened slightly at his daughter's trust, but fear still lingered in his eyes. Valaris 9 is fragile, Aurixa. Even one strange tool could disrupt our ecosystem. We must be careful. Mason took a careful step forward. Look, I understand your concern. If something on your world can be damaged by simple tech, I want to avoid that too. But humans use tools like this every day. It's normal for us. Aurixa's father turned to Mason with serious eyes. Then perhaps humans and Valerians can learn from each other, but only if we proceed with caution. Aurixa smiled. He is willing to learn, and so am I. Mason exhaled with relief. Good, because the last thing I want is to cause trouble here. Aurixa turned to her father. May I continue speaking with him? The elder hesitated, then nodded. Stay in the open areas, no deep forest. And Aurixa, be cautious. I will, she promised. The Valerians drifted away, leaving Aurixa and Mason alone once more. Aurixa handed the rod back to him with a gentle smile. You see? Not everyone understands your tools. They are very strange to us. Mason laughed softly. Yeah, I noticed. But strange does not mean bad, Aurixa said thoughtfully. Maybe your tools can teach us new ways to adapt. Maybe they can help Valaris 9 one day. Mason raised an eyebrow. Help with what? Arixa's smile faded slightly. There are dangers on this world, Mason Hale. Things that grow too fast. Things that cannot be controlled. For the first time, Mason felt a chill in the peaceful blue air. What kind of things? He asked. Arixa looked toward the glowing forest with worry in her eyes. Things that even we do not fully understand. Mason Hale followed Arixa through the glowing forest, careful not to step on any of the pulsing vines. Each one reacted when he passed, curling or stretching like they were trying to learn about him. Valaris 9 was the strangest place he had ever visited. Beautiful, but strange. Arixa walked gracefully, her steps light as if she barely touched the ground. Every plant moved slightly as she passed, as if greeting her. Mason couldn't tell if that was normal or if she had some kind of bond with the valley. So, Mason said, breaking the silence, you mentioned dangers earlier. What kind of dangers does this planet have? Arixa looked over her shoulder. Many, but one in particular worries us. The predator bloom. Mason frowned. Predator bloom, that sounds not friendly. It is not, Arixa said quietly. It sleeps most years, but when it wakes, it grows faster than anything on this world. Too fast, too hungry. Mason tightened his grip on his tool belt. Has it attacked recently? Not yet, Arixa replied. But the forest whispers. It feels movement under the soil. You can sense that? Arixa nodded. Valerians are connected to the land. We feel its balance. But your people, you sense danger in other ways. You watch, you measure, you build tools that change shape. Our differences could help us both. Mason smiled. I hope so. Before Arixa could respond, the trees ahead brightened, and voices echoed through the clearing. A small group of Valerians gathered near a crystal-like pool. Their silver-blue skin glowed under the soft light, and their eyes focused sharply on Mason. The moment he stepped into the clearing, the murmuring began. That's the human? He carries the shifting tool. Unstable tech, Arixa sighed. They have been talking about you. Mason forced a polite smile. I figured. A Valerian scientist approached, a tall woman with long, shimmering hair braided with living vines. Her expression was serious but not hostile. I am Sarali, she introduced herself, head of Environmental Harmony Studies. Her eyes traveled to Mason's equipment. You carry human devices that change shape. Yes, Mason said. They're just multi-tools. Sarali frowned. We prefer things that stay what they are. Predictable, stable. Mason tried to laugh it off. Humans aren't really big on stable. We're more into fix it fast before it breaks again. The Valerians whispered at his casual tone, surprised by his openness. Sarali stepped closer. Arixa says your tool is safe, but our people have seen its unfolding plates, its expanding forms. Such rapid changes disrupt the calm rhythm of this valley. Mason raised the tool slowly, making sure no part of it moved. It only expands when programmed. See? Safe. Before he finished speaking, the tool detected an energy reading from the ground and automatically opened a scanning wing with a soft click. A harmless action, but very poorly timed. The Valerians gasped in shock. One of them yelped. It grows again! No, wait! Mason waved his hands. It's scanning automatically. It's not alive! The mood shifted from worry to mild panic. Even Sarali stepped back. Arixa moved forward quickly, placing herself between Mason and her people. Stop! It is not a creature. Humans build tools that adapt quickly. That is how they survive harsh worlds. The Valerians hesitated, looking unsure. Sarali studied Mason carefully. Then show us. Explain your tools. We must understand them. Mason sighed with relief. Sure, no problem. He placed the tool on the ground and activated its holographic display. A simple set of diagrams floated above it. Shape modes, scanning features, modular attachments. This device can fold into different forms, Mason explained. It doesn't grow. It just rearranges its parts. Humans like efficiency. One tool that does many things. Sarali folded her arms. Why not make many tools? One for each purpose. Simple, predictable. Because humans travel a lot, Mason said. We explore. We solve problems that we don't expect. We need flexibility. The Valerians whispered again. A race that prepares for the unknown. They carry their solutions with them. Strange, but impressive. Arixa smiled at Mason, pleased that her people were starting to understand, at least a little. But the moment of peace did not last long. Another Valerian ran into the clearing, panting. His face was pale with fear. Elder Thalin seeks an emergency council. The soil sensors detect rapid growth waves. Arixa stiffened. Growth waves? That means... Yes, the messenger said breathlessly. The predator bloom. It moves. The entire clearing went silent. Sarali's voice dropped to a whisper. So soon. Mason felt tension in the air thicken like a storm cloud. What exactly is this predator bloom? He asked. Arixa turned to him, eyes wide with fear. A creature, a plant, a machine. We do not truly know. It grows faster than anything. It devours structures, absorbs energy, and adapts too quickly. Mason's face hardened. Meaning it evolves faster than your world's defenses? Yes, Arixa whispered. Far faster. Sarali looked at Mason with new urgency. You're changing tools. Can they fight something that grows? Mason blinked. Well, in theory, my equipment can build countertech quickly, but I need to understand more about this thing. It is dangerous, Sarali warned. It wakes hungry. Arixa nodded. If it reaches the valley, many will be lost. A moment later, Elder Thalin appeared. The same man from earlier who had warned Arixa about Mason's tool. His worried expression softened when he saw his daughter, but became stern when he faced Mason. Human, the elder said. Your tools, they change quickly, too quickly. But now, that may be exactly what we need. Mason felt the weight of his words. I'll help however I can. Thalin took a deep breath. The predator bloom was quiet for decades. Our organic technologies grow slowly, in balance with nature. But this thing, this nightmare, does not respect balance. It spreads in hours. Sarali added, Our defenses take weeks or months to evolve. We cannot adapt fast enough. Arixa looked at Mason with hope. But humans change things by hand. Your tools do not wait for nature. They adapt instantly. Mason nodded slowly. Yeah, that's our strength. We don't evolve, we invent. Thalin placed a glowing crystal map on the ground. The image showed a pulsing red patch spreading under the soil like a disease. It heads for our homes, Thalin said. We need something, anything, to slow it. Mason stared at the map. His mind raced through every piece of equipment he carried. His multi-tool could fabricate sensors, drones, barriers, small things, but fast to produce. If I can get close, Mason said, I can build countergrowth devices, maybe even create pressure fields or nutrient blockers. Sarali frowned. Will your devices grow? No, Mason said firmly. They build. They don't spread. That's the difference. Arixa touched his arm gently. Then let us go. We have no time. Mason looked around. The Valerians' faces were filled with fear, but also something new. Hope. He took a deep breath. All right, show me the fastest way. They moved quickly through the forest. The glowing vines pulsed faster, as if warning them. Mason saw the ground trembling lightly with each step. How close are we? He asked. Arixa answered, voice tight. Too close. Suddenly, the ground cracked ahead, and a plume of reddish spores burst into the air. The soil shifted like something alive was pushing upward. Mason's instincts kicked in. He grabbed his tool and activated emergency mode. In seconds, it unfolded into a compact drone launcher. Arixa stared. It changed again. It's supposed to, Mason said, firing 2 drones into the air. These will scan the bloom's pattern. The drones flew ahead, their lights blinking rapidly. Moments later, data streamed into Mason's wrist pad. A chaotic image appeared, tangled roots, aggressive growth spikes, energy absorption nodes. Oh, wow. This thing is worse than I thought. Arixa swallowed. Can you stop it? Not stop it, Mason said, but maybe slow it long enough for your people to escape. Arixa's voice turned sharp. We are not running. Mason looked at her determination and nodded. Then I'll help you fight. The ground rumbled again. Something huge began rising from below. Arixa grabbed Mason's hand. It begins. Mason tightened his grip on his tool. Then let's show this thing what humans can do. The ground split open like a giant mouth awakening from a long sleep. Mason felt the vibrations travel up his legs, shaking the soil beneath him. Arixa stepped back, her violet eyes wide with fear and determination. From the crack in the ground, a dark mass began to rise, shifting, swelling, crawling. It looked like living roots fused with metallic plates, pulsing with red energy. The predator bloom was not a plant, and not a machine. It was something in between, an unnatural force that changed shape as easily as breathing. It grows so fast, Arixa whispered. Mason watched in awe and horror. It's adapting already. It's forming armor. The bloom expanded like foam, shooting out tendrils that latched onto rocks, trees, anything solid. One tendril snapped toward Mason, but Arixa pulled him aside just in time. That was close, Mason breathed. Arixa nodded. It senses movement. It feeds on energy. Mason checked the readings on his wrist pad. The bloom's growth rate was increasing, spreading across the forest floor like fire made of vines. We need distance, he said. They ran back toward a flatter area of the valley. Mason skidded to a stop and activated his multi-purpose tool. With quick motions, he expanded its fabrication chamber. Mechanical arms unfolded, spinning in place. Arixa stared. Is it growing again? It's building, Mason corrected. Big difference. What are you making? Mason didn't look up. A rapid support barrier. It'll slow the bloom if we're lucky. Thin metal plates assembled in seconds, forming a curved, shield-like device. Mason slammed it into the ground and activated the deployment mode. The barrier sparked to life, projecting a shimmering energy wall that extended across the clearing. The predator bloom reached it moments later. It slammed into the wall, tendrils hissing, plates grinding. The energy barrier trembled violently, bending under the force. Will it hold? Arixa asked. Not for long, Mason said, but maybe long enough. The bloom kept pressing forward. Mason watched its shape twist, its surface splitting into sharp blades as it tried to cut through the barrier. It was more aggressive than he had imagined, an intelligent hunger. Arixa's voice trembled softly. Our ancestors feared the bloom for this reason. Nothing grows like it. It changes every moment. Mason glanced at her. Everything changes. Humans just learn to change faster. Arixa looked at him, surprised by his confidence. And you believe this is enough to defeat it? Mason tightened a bolt on the deployment panel. I don't know if we can defeat it, but we can outthink it. Behind them, Valerian scouts arrived, their glowing skin dimming with fear. Elder Thalon and Sorali hurried forward. Thalon looked at the barrier in shock. Human! You created this so quickly? Not quickly enough, Mason replied. We need more defenses. Sorali stared at the bloom. It's learning, testing the barrier. It may find a way around. Mason nodded grimly. Then we make something it can't predict. He began building again, this time a drone swarm launcher. The tool unfolded into a series of triple-winged devices. One after another clicked into formation inside the launcher. Aurixa watched every movement. "How do you think so fast?" Mason shrugged while working. "Human brains panic a lot. Panic makes us creative." Aurixa laughed softly. "A strange way to survive." "Told you," Mason said with a grin. "Humans are weird." The barrier cracked again. The bloom pushed harder, its surface glowing hotter, absorbing the barrier's energy. Thalen shouted, "It feeds on the wall! We are helping it grow!" Mason swore under his breath. "Then let's change the plan." He fired the drones. They shot into the sky, then rained down thin cables that wrapped around the bloom's tendrils. The cables tightened, injecting sonic pulses. The bloom recoiled with a shriek-like vibration. Aurixa covered her ears. "What is that sound?" "Disruption frequency," Mason explained, "confuses its signal pathways." Sarali watched the bloom twist in disorientation. "You stunned it. The forest has never seen anything disrupt bloom growth so quickly." Mason wiped sweat from his forehead. "Humans fight by messing with the enemy's pattern. We break rules." But the victory was short-lived. The bloom adapted. Its surface shifted and hardened. It cut through the cables like thin threads and reformed its armor. The tendrils extended again, faster than before. Aurixa gasped. "It learned to block your drones." "Yeah," Mason said grimly. "Figured it would." The bloom slammed into the barrier once more. Cracks formed across the entire surface. "It's going to break through," Sarali warned. Mason activated his fabrication chamber again. "We need something stronger, something alive." Aurixa blinked. "Alive?" "Yes," Mason said. "If it can adapt, maybe we use that against it, something changing faster than it can predict." Aurixa stared. "But humans do not grow living tech." Mason grinned. "We don't, but you do." He pointed at the glowing vines nearby. "Your world adapts naturally. Can your vines be guided?" Aurixa looked at the vines, then at the bloom, then back at Mason. "I think they can, but it will be difficult. They respond to intention, but not always clearly. And if the bloom takes them, it won't," Mason said, "because we'll overwhelm it together." Thalen stepped forward. "Aurixa, be careful." Aurixa nodded. "Always." She knelt beside the vines and placed her hands on them. The vines brightened, glowing stronger with her touch. She whispered softly in her language, a song, almost like a gentle command. The vines responded. They uncoiled from the earth and slithered toward the bloom like glowing serpents. Mason activated his own device, sending more drones to guide the vines, projecting energy trails that directed their movement. Aurixa's voice strengthened. "Grow with purpose. Grow where needed." The vines began to weave around the bloom, entangling it in a glowing net. The energy pulses confused the bloom's adaptive responses. "It's working!" Sarali cried. Mason watched the readings spike. The bloom struggled, tendrils thrashing, unable to decide how to counter two different types of growth at once. "It's stuck between choices," Mason explained. "Can't adapt fast enough." Aurixa kept singing, her voice steady, her hands glowing. The vines pulled tighter. But then the ground trembled again. A second wave of bloom growth erupted nearby, smaller but faster. Mason's eyes widened. "It's spreading in multiple directions," Aurixa gasped. "This is worse than we feared," Thalen yelled. "We must pull back. It's too much." Mason shook his head. "No, we adapt, just like it does." He raised his tool once more. "Aurixa, give me a strong vine. I'm going to merge it." Aurixa hesitated. "Merge? With your tech?" "Yes," Mason said firmly. "Something hybrid. Something new." Aurixa touched a vine and guided it to Mason's hand. The vine pulsed brightly. Mason fed it into a socket of his multi-purpose tool. The device scanned it, read its structure, and then began weaving it into a new form, a living tech hybrid barrier launcher. Aurixa stared in amazement. "You can do that?" Mason smiled. "Never tried before, but humans figure things out when we're desperate." He slammed the hybrid device into the ground. Instantly, living energy vines spread outward in a circle, forming a wall that grew as fast as the bloom did. Aurixa looked shocked. "It is evolving with the enemy." "Exactly," Mason said. "Now let's turn its own rules against it." The hybrid barrier clamped onto the bloom, stalling its advance. For the first time, the bloom stopped growing. Sorali whispered, "Humans are incredible." Thalen nodded slowly. "They break the natural cycle, and somehow it works." Aurixa smiled at Mason with shining eyes. "You did it." Mason wiped his forehead. "We did it." But his wrist pad blinked urgently. Not defeated, only delayed. The bloom was gathering energy for an even bigger surge. Mason swallowed hard. "This isn't over." Aurixa nodded. "Then we keep fighting." Mason gripped his hybrid device. "Yeah, because humans don't stop when things get hard." Aurixa's eyes sparkled. "Humanity truly adapts." The ground trembled again. The next wave was coming, and this time the real battle would begin. The air shook with a deep rumbling sound, like the growl of a mountain waking up. Mason felt the vibration through his boots. Aurixa steadied herself on a glowing tree root, eyes fixed on the trembling soil ahead. The predator bloom was preparing its next attack, an even larger surge. Mason checked the data streaming across his wrist pad. The bloom's energy patterns were building fast, faster than anything he had predicted. "It's absorbing the ground nutrients," Mason said. "It's getting ready for a massive burst." Aurixa inhaled sharply. If it releases that energy, it could cover the whole valley. Behind them, Elder Thalen, Sorali, and several Valerian scouts watched the ground with grim faces. The hybrid barrier, Mason's combination of human tech and Valerian vines, was still holding, glowing brightly as it fought the bloom's spread. But cracks were beginning to form. The hybrid was matching the bloom's speed, but barely. Sorali stepped closer to Mason. "Your creation buys us time." "But not victory." Mason nodded. "Yeah, I know. We need something bigger." Aurixa looked at him, worry shining in her violet eyes. "Bigger? What can be bigger than this?" Mason took a deep breath. "Not bigger, smarter." He knelt beside the hybrid launcher, examining the energy circuits and vine nodes woven into the structure. An idea sparked in his mind. Crazy, dangerous, but maybe their only chance. "Aurixa," he said slowly, "your vines respond to intention, right? They grow based on your guiding thoughts." "Yes," she answered. "They listen when I focus on them. But they do not always understand. They follow the forest's rules." Mason tapped the metal panel on his tool. "And my tech reads patterns and builds structures instantly. It doesn't follow natural rules." Thalen frowned. "Two systems that fight each other in nature," Aurixa interrupted softly. "But together, they confuse the bloom." Mason pointed at the hybrid barrier. "Right. It's stuck because it doesn't know if it's fighting a plant or a machine." Sorali's eyes widened. "You want to make something more complicated." Mason shrugged. "Complicated problems need complicated solutions." Thalen stared at Mason, half amazed, half alarmed. "Humans do not fear crossing lines." Mason gave a small smile. "We don't fear trying things that shouldn't work." Aurixa leaned forward. "Tell us your idea." Mason stood up. "We make a second hybrid system, bigger and more reactive, something that adapts faster than the bloom can." "Impossible," Thalen said. "Even our vines cannot grow that fast." "Not alone," Mason argued. But if your vines guide the structure, and my tech builds the framework, and we feed it through the valley's energy channels—" Arixa gasped softly. "It could grow at human speed and think at Valerian speed." Mason nodded. "A hybrid mind." Sarali covered her mouth, astonished. "You want to create a living barrier that makes decisions in real time." "Exactly," Mason said. "It won't evolve naturally. It will evolve intentionally." Thalen hesitated. "It is dangerous." Arixa lifted her chin. "So is doing nothing." Mason knelt beside the vines. "Arixa, can you link the forest's energy to my tool, like you did before, but stronger?" She placed her hands gently on the ground. "I can try." The glowing vines brightened, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The forest itself felt like it was listening. Mason activated the tool's highest fabrication mode. Mechanical panels unfolded, forming a circular station. Sparks crackled as the machine prepared to merge tech with organic growth. Arixa whispered a guiding melody, and the vines flowed toward the machine, weaving themselves into its openings. The device lit up. Mason worked quickly, sweating from the intensity. "Sarali, I need those stabilizer crystals. Thalen, help me adjust the field projector." They moved without hesitation. For the first time, humans and Valerians worked as one team. The hybrid device's glow intensified, half natural green, half mechanical blue. The whole clearing vibrated with combined energy. Arixa gasped. "It's listening." Mason nodded. "Good. Now we tell it what to do." Across the valley, the predator bloom burst upward in a sudden explosion. Red roots shot into the air like spears. The earth cracked open, releasing a cloud of spores. "It begins!" Arixa shouted. The hybrid barrier shook violently, its vines stretching, metal parts groaning. Mason knew it wouldn't hold much longer. "Now!" Mason yelled. Arixa pushed both her hands into the ground. "Grow!" Mason pressed the activation key. "Build!" The hybrid device unleashed a shockwave of living energy. Vines and metal fused, spiraling upward into a living wall that spread in every direction. The structure didn't just grow, it reacted, expanding toward the bloom with lightning speed. The predator bloom reacted instantly, sending tendrils toward the new structure. But the hybrid responded even faster, twisting around the bloom's tendrils and absorbing its energy instead of being overtaken. The bloom shrieked, a deep, vibrating sound that echoed across the valley. Arixa held her breath. "Is it hurting?" "No," Mason said. "It's scared." The hybrid structure tightened around the bloom like a cage made of both nature and tech. The bloom tried to change shape, to form blades, spikes, armor. But every adaptation triggered a counter-response from the hybrid. "It's reading the bloom's intentions," Sarali whispered. Mason pointed at the columns of light rising from the structure. "It's mapping its pattern." Arixa watched in awe. "It learns faster than the bloom." Mason grinned. "That's humanity's gift." The hybrid barrier surged again, creating a dome over the bloom. A second layer formed around the first, then a third. Energy beams shot downward, locking it in place. Finally, the bloom's movements slowed, then stopped. Silence washed across the valley. For several long seconds, no one breathed. Arixa stepped closer to Mason. "Is it over?" Mason checked his wrist pad. The bloom's energy levels dropped sharply. "We contained it, completely." Arixa exhaled in relief, and the vines around her glowed with happiness. Sarali looked at Mason with wonder. "Your people changed the fate of our valley." Thalen approached with a slow, respectful nod. "Humans break patterns in ways we never dared. You did what our world could not." Mason's face softened. "We didn't do it alone." Arixa stood proudly. "Together, we have created something new." The hybrid barrier pulsed once more, locking the bloom's energy permanently. The forest around them relaxed, the trees dimming into peaceful light, the vines uncurling softly. Thalen placed a hand on Mason's shoulder. Your tools may change shape, but so does your heart. You adapt with purpose. Humanity's strength is not in size or power. Mason smiled. It's in being stubborn? Arixa laughed. It is in choosing to build, even when afraid. Mason looked at the valley, the glowing forest, the living barrier, the quiet peace spreading once again. We build our future, he said. That's what humans do. Arixa nodded. And now, you will help shape ours. Sarali stepped forward. We must form a pact. Humans and Valarians together. We will study this hybrid technology and learn from each other. Mason grinned. I'd like that. Arixa's eyes sparkled. Your tool. What else can it do? Mason laughed. You haven't seen anything yet. The two species stood together beneath the glowing trees, united for the first time. The predator bloom was contained. A new alliance was born, and in that moment, the valley knew peace again. Humanity had not saved the world with force. They'd saved it with creativity, courage, and the power to adapt. HFY. Humanity, heck yeah.